Hello, and welcome to the Art of Selling Online Courses. The point of this podcast is to share winning strategies and secret hacks from top performers in the online course industry. My name is John Ainsworth, and today's guest is Jaryd Krause. Now, this is a really interesting episode because Jaryd's got a completely different angle he's going to be sharing with us about how to grow your online course business. We're going to be talking through how to buy other businesses in order to grow your existing business. So super interesting, very different angle. Now, Jaryd's a leading Australian business coach. He's a mentor, online business professional. He went from being a plumber to running an online business empire, and he now dedicates his time to teaching individuals all around the world how to exit the rat race, replace their income, and live the life they always desired. Now, before we start learning from Jaryd, I want to mention our sponsor. And today's sponsor is my company, Data Driven Marketing. So what we do is we help online course creators just like you to increase their revenue 20 to 100% in 8 weeks through strategic funnel optimization. We help you convert more visitors to leads, more leads to sales, and sales to higher revenue. And we do that through a combination of email marketing, webinars, tripwire funnels, all kinds of clever stuff. So go to datadrivenmarketing.co/calculator to find out how much more revenue you could be making from your online course business with your current traffic. So Jaryd, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, John.
So this is really different, I think, to a lot of episodes that we've done before. Like I mentioned, it's your angle is about buying other businesses. Could you give everyone a little bit of background as to like what your role is in that and what you do in that at the moment?
Yeah. So mainly what I do is I teach people that want to sort of get online or start making online income. I teach them how to replace their job or your regular income via buying a business that's already past that 90% failure rate that all startups face, that are already making money. So I teach them how to find them, how to break them down, do due diligence, negotiate, and seal the deal basically. And then from there, if they want to continue working with me, at a higher level, we can jump in the mastermind and help them scale their businesses, or they can do that within the community that we have as well.
And so I guess that's all kinds of businesses you're helping people with, like e-commerce, SaaS. Like what's the kind of niches you work in most often?
I wouldn't say niches. I'd say there's like three main business models. So the first one is e-com that most people know, and there's different tiers of e-com. You can do drop shipping, you can do self-product distribution, or you can do like Amazon FBA or third-party distributor. So there's three different types of e-commerce businesses. And then the other two types of online businesses is you can have like a content business or a media business where you produce a bunch of content, like usually blog articles for ad revenue or affiliate revenue. And then the other one is like SaaS or /membership type businesses where people will pay a monthly recurring fee or an annual recurring fee for a software product or for content. And that could be like, what you guys do, help people scale their memberships.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can you talk everybody through, because this idea I think is super interesting, and it's kind of common in certain spaces to buy sites and try and scale your business through that. And I don't think that in the course creator space, it's really all that common. Like who is it who tends to do this? Affiliate businesses?
You mean buying a business, acquiring a business for a growth strategy for an existing business?
Yeah.
So there's e-com are pretty renowned for it, where they will have a product or a few products, their own online store, and they're like, I want to buy an audience. Basically, that's what you're doing is you're buying an audience through, and that could be a content business that is doing affiliate articles, and you could swap the affiliate links or the stuff over to direct to the e-commerce store. Or you could just make a whole bunch of new content and direct people to the e-commerce store, and then you could put ads on that site to your e-commerce store as well. So e-commerce businesses are pretty renowned for that. So I've got somebody in my mastermind who runs an e-commerce business, is just like hungry and looking at different content businesses that they can, or audiences they can purchase. And the way we look at it is like it's your marketing budget, really.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is fascinating, right? So one of the places that I see you get the chance to make a big jump in a business, in an industry, is when you look at what are other industries doing. And it sounds like, okay, e-commerce, this is kind of normal. People want to buy an audience, they go and they buy a content site and they buy the audience. And I've certainly never heard anyone talking about it in the course creator business. And I'll tell you why I think maybe that is. It's like course creators, as a general rule, from what I've seen, certainly the kind of people we work with, they are an expert in a topic. That's how they got into this. They're an expert in dog training or home recording studios or teaching Spanish or whatever it is, right? They're an expert in that one thing and they've got an angle on it and they're really good at it. And they start creating content. Maybe they follow Pat Flynn, or maybe they go to the Authority Hacker guys or whatever, right? And they start learning, how are we going to start driving traffic? And they get good at that. They get good at one channel normally. It's a podcast or it's YouTube or it's blogs, whatever. And they create content for years and they create courses for years. And they don't necessarily look at it as like, okay, I'm a business owner. What's my kind of opportunities? What's my tactics? It's like, I've got a system. It's create this content, create these courses. I'm going to keep doing that. And so that it doesn't, I don't think most of them are open to these other angles, these other ways of doing things. I'd certainly hadn't come across it. And so there's sometimes these really big opportunities when you can look at another industry and take something they're doing that nobody in your industry is doing and just copy it across. So if someone's interested in this approach, can you kind of talk us through it? Like, what's some of the advantages that people could get from buying a content site? How might it work if they've got a course business?
Yeah, well, let's start with what an example. Let's just say what you mentioned before, like somebody owns a course business teaching people to be how to train their dogs, because they're great dog trainers, and they've just got a bunch of content on YouTube or their podcast, and they've built that up. Maybe what they're doing is they're putting ads behind their content, right, or putting money behind their content to get more exposure to it, to get more people to watch their content and build their own audience, basically. Now, that's the traditional route that probably everybody here is listening to. But say you were to take that ad budget and say it was $10,000 a month, right, or $5,000 a month, and you go $5,000 a month of ad budget over, 6 months, and you decide to buy a $30,000 business. Instead of trying to put your content out in front of people, you can buy an audience with that $30,000. You can buy a content site that is teaching people how to train dog or be dog trainers, or a dog site that sells affiliate products or talks about different types of dog products. And they have an audience that are hungry dog owners wanting the best for their dog. And they could buy that and just start emailing lists, doing email marketing to the list of that audience, putting ads on that site that they've just purchased, write a bunch of content for that, and target that audience with their own affiliate articles on that site. So they could do it that way. So basically, you're buying another audience and tapping into that through a very different route than what most people listening to this are taking already, right?
So I'd say, most people aren't spending money on ads to drive traffic to their content, but what they are spending a lot of either time or money on is creating more content to grow their audience, right? So they might have spent years doing YouTube videos, but they don't have much organic traffic through Google, for example, right? Or they've got a podcast, or they're really big in Instagram or something. They've got some way of building an audience, but they haven't got any of these other traffic sources nailed. And so I think this is like someone spending a bunch of money to get more organic traffic in. They could put money into ads to drive someone into their funnels, or they could create a bunch more content and build more organic traffic themselves, or they could buy a site like you're talking about to kind of get that extra traffic in. So I'm just trying to think it through from the point of view of the listener in terms of what's the sums they need to be doing to figure out if this makes sense for them.
Yeah, it's really like what you said. They could be spending a lot of time or a lot of money on content creation. And it's really resource, like allocating your resources into a different area, really.
Yeah.
It may not be ad spend, but it may be money behind content production,
Yeah.
time behind content production. And the way I look at it is if you're doing any form of marketing, you're paying for it, right? You're paying for it in time and you're paying for it in money. And so what you're doing basically is you're buying an audience, you're buying attention. When you buy an online business, you're buying an audience. You're buying the attention of people that are already consuming the content on that content site. Then you can just start, you've got that audience, then you can start to manufacture how do you tap into that audience and funnel that to your course or your membership.
And what I wonder about is there something where the site that you buy and the traffic from that could be more valuable to the people with the courses than it is to the person who's selling it? You know, like if the person selling it is only running ads on it and they're making 3,000 a month from it or something like that, and they want what's like a typical multiple for
we'll just stick with like at the moment on average about just over 3 years net profit.
Okay.
Like so net profit for 1 year times 3 years, basically.
Yeah. 3,000 a month. That might be like, okay, so you'd be looking at like 100,000. So pretty significant kind of investment. Let's just take, because I know a lot of people listening are at a smaller stage, but like, let's say it was 500 a month someone's making from it, and you could buy that for $20,000. But that audience, you knew how to convert those people into leads and those leads into sales for your courses and make a lot more money from it. Then it might be worth way more than 18,000, especially if you're buying an email list maybe as well to go with it.
Hugely. Well, the email list it will be valued into the business. So a business will, how much it's sold for is basically what it's worth, obviously. But like you think of this in two ways. People can think of it that I'm going to buy, and what we've talked about so far until you just highlight it now is people are just thinking, I'm just going to take my resources and buy a business and tap into that and funnel traffic to my course or membership. What we haven't talked about is that when you buy a business, say for $20,000 or $30,000, is you're going to get 100% return on your investment in 3 years.
Right. Yeah.
So you're earning an income from that business already, right? But you're funneling that traffic to your course as well, which means you're making money from the business you buy there separately, and then you're taking that traffic and putting it into, so you can earn, we could say easily you could earn double your money, but who knows? It could be more, it could be less, but that's why the price of businesses are starting to go up. Online businesses are starting to go up because we have people that are buying, talking like $1 million businesses that they go, all right, cool. I've got like a $5 million business and I'm just going to buy a bunch of companies in that particular niche that is very specific, and they will pay a higher multiple for that business. Maybe they pay 4 or 5 years and they know they're going to get their return very quickly because they're going to make the money from the business that they buy, but also they're going to funnel that traffic into their primary business or platform business is what we call it.
Right.
You're buying a lot of leverage, really. And you can usually pay a higher multiple. If you don't need to, then wow, what a deal.
So what I wonder here then, what it seems to me like is that the stuff that we're teaching people how to do, so like how to convert more visitors into leads and those leads into sales and the sales into higher revenue sales, all of that stuff with your primary business, if you do that first, all of a sudden, any business that you buy is worth a lot more to you, because then you can go, right, I'm going to go onto that site and just do the same stuff. I'm going to convert all the traffic they've got into leads and leads into sales of my products and all this kind of thing. And that way it's going to be worth a lot more to you than it would be to the person who's selling it, or maybe to somebody else who's buying it, right? Who's just looking for the ad revenue or something like that.
Exactly. Say you're good in your course business and you make most of your sales you get them on your email list and you make a lot of your sales through email marketing. Now, imagine if you were to go and buy a business, say you're a dog trainer and you're great at email marketing, and you were to go and buy a business that is a content business that makes affiliate revenue and ad revenue, and they haven't built an email list, and you know how to build an email list. you can start email marketing to that business that you just bought for affiliate offers for the original ones that are on the site, but also the ones that are on your primary business. And you can do email marketing and drive people back to the website to get more traffic revenue as well. So when it depends on what level of skill, normally I'm teaching people that have no business experience, online business experience, because they're wanting to replace their income. But say you're really good at one thing and you're like either an SEO, a digital marketer, or whatever it is, you've got a lot of leverage when you buy a business because you can use that.
So what's realistic in terms of, let's say someone's got to that stage, right? They've gone through our program, or they've got good at this stuff some other way, and they've got really good at converting the visitors into leads and the leads into sales, and they've got that leverage and they want to go buy a site. What is a realistic amount to be starting with to be able to do this? Like I was throwing out this number, $20,000. Like, I don't know. Do people sell businesses for that? I know Flipper, it used to be quite low prices that you could get stuff from. But as prices have gone up over time, and I've heard people say that you need at least 50 grand or whatever to buy something decent. So what kind of budget do people need to have for this to be a realistic idea?
Look, you can get on Flipper and find what people would call businesses, but I'd call them more of a website. You can buy a website that's got a bunch of content on it that's maybe not making a bunch of money. And what you're really doing is if you're buying something for under the $10,000 price range, is you're basically buying a bunch of content. You're buying the structure of a website that's been built, really. I mean, people spend $50,000 on just a website redesign and branding. So when you buy something, the rule that I like to say is like you get what you pay for. Generally, that's a very general statement. And so what Warren Buffett says, who's one of the best business investors in the world, is he said it's better to buy a good business at a fair price than a fair business at a good price. So I think it's really worth buying something decent to save you a lot of trouble. If you're looking at buying an audience, you don't want to have to nurse the audience and try and build up the audience and manufacture it and put a lot of time and resources into it when you're buying it, unless you've got time and resources to do that. But to answer your question, I'd say not to buy anything under the $10,000 price range, maybe even $15,000. Otherwise, what I say to people is you're basically buying yourself a startup. And like I say, is 90% of all startups fail. The stats, the SBA stats of the US, Small Business Administration, show that 90% of startups fail. And it's a lot. You're making your job a bit harder. So I say, you can buy anything from 15K up, and the sky's the limit, really. Like people are buying $10, $15 million businesses, online businesses, 30 million, 40 million, 50 million. So there's no ceiling.
Yeah. Except
Crazy.
For your budget.
It depends on your budget. And I mean, once you start getting up there, you can get leverage as well. Start financing businesses.
Yeah, I know in America, everyone's talking about these SBA loans at the moment as being like an amazing deal. And you just get one. It's, oh my God.
The funny thing about the SBA is it's not simple to get an SBA loan. They do due diligence on the person they're lending to make sure they are an entrepreneur. They've run a business before. They know how to run the type of business they're looking at buying or whatever it is. So, and it's a bit of a process.
So how about if somebody's like one of the people you're talking about that want to get started in the online space and replacing their income, and they want to buy a business that's a course business? Is that a realistic thing to do? Because I know the problem with course businesses for buying and selling is a lot of them are built around personal brands. So is it a realistic thing to be thinking about?
To buy a course business, or for somebody to sell a course business?
Yeah, for buying a course business to boost your existing business or to just get started in this space.
People sell course businesses all the time. It's very realistic. Where it can get difficult is that, and it's not just the course business itself, but any business that has a personal brand attached to it and the audience is heavily involved and has a lot of trust in that person who runs it, then before you look at selling it, you'd want to work out a way that you can remove yourself from being the face of the business and having too much personal brand attached to it. And you can transform personal brand into business brand as well. So it can just be the brand of the business. And you can have that person being the leader of the business, whether they're the face of the business or not. And I mean, people do buy personal brand attached to it, and the person who sells it is happy to stay the face of the business. I think that can be risky. So yeah, if somebody listening is like, okay, I'm like, wow, all right, I'm making 100K a year, and I'm like, I'd love to get some cash, and they could sell their business for 300 to 350K. And to do so, I'd suggest them starting if they're really heavily like the face of their business, like I am on my business. I'm the full face of the business. Good thing is I don't want to sell. I would say you'd need to start to remove yourself from being the face of the business and work out a way you can do that. You can do that over a 3 to 6 month time frame, and then put it up for sale, and then you get a higher price for the business than rather selling it with just your personal brand attached to it.
Got it. And what does that mean then? What does that look like, do you think, removing yourself from the face of the business? Like not hosting like getting other people to come and host your podcast or start recording videos or writing the blog post? Is that effectively what it means?
Yep. Basically, and as a way you can do that is you can start co-hosting with somebody and do it over a 6 month period. And you can just be honest, like you can just let people know that like the business is moving forward. It's taking up more of my time that I'd like, and I want to make sure I can produce a great result for you guys. So we'll bring on a co-host, and she'll eventually take over, or they'll eventually take over. And yeah, taking, if you got images of yourself all over the place, like digital channels and stuff like that, you can start putting your logo there. With your USP, unique selling point for your brand, and start doing it that way, making it a slow transition so people just don't feel like they've been abandoned. The audience, that is, don't feel like they're being abandoned. And I think over a 6 month period, if people are still, see that the results are getting there and people are loving the content still, why would they leave, and why would there be any change to the business? So when somebody is thinking about changing or removing themselves from the face of the business, the emphasis really needs to be quality, the quality of content, the quality of the email marketing, and the quality of all the marketing, the quality of the site, the quality of all the touch points. Is you really need to be thinking about the audience first. Yeah.
Okay. So let's say someone's heard this and they're like, you know what, I've got this leverage in place. I want to buy a business, whether it's a content business or a course business they want to buy. What's the next step? What does someone need to do if they're starting to think about this?
I would suggest working out what your budget would be first and foremost. And that may change when you start looking at businesses, but I would say just kind of think about sort of budget that you could spend, and then go away and have a look on a few different website brokers. Type into Google website brokers. You got Empire Flippers, FE International, Motion Invest. You got so many now. It's crazy. I would suggest probably not looking at Flipper, because you will be wasting if you're a beginner, you can get taken advantage of really easily. If you know how to do due diligence, which will be the next step, have a look at businesses, work out your budget, and then you know how to do due diligence, which is the tongue twister. You know how to do that.
Today,
yeah. If you know how to do that, then you'll be able to execute confidently on any platform, on any type of business you're looking at. So the main thing really is, if you're going to buy a business or a content business, any type of website, is I'd suggest investing some time into doing due diligence and learning how to do due diligence.
Got it. Okay, cool. Whereas if you're with Empire Flippers or FE International, they're going to be supporting you with that. Was that kind of what you meant when you said rather than Flipper?
Empire Flippers, well, the brokers, they pre-vet businesses because they don't want to sell bad businesses to people and ruin their reputation, right? They got their brand at stake. Whereas other marketplaces, and not pointing to any in particular, but there's other marketplaces that do not pre-vet businesses, where people can just list their own business for sale, and they can just put in any old metrics and figures and data and text and try and sell a business that somebody that doesn't know how to do due diligence can get taken advantage of. So that's why I suggest understanding how to do due diligence before you buy any business, of course.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Brokers don't do due diligence, and they're not going to help you or teach you how to do due diligence.
Okay, got it.
To answer your question.
So you decided you're going to go for this. You've figured out your budget. You learned how to do due diligence. Presumably, you are teaching people that. I guess that's part of what your courses and what your support is about. What's next? What's the next step?
Buy the business. You've got to, I would say it's like going away investing in real estate. It's very similar. Is you're going to look at a bunch of different businesses, do your due diligence on a bunch of them, work out the one that's right for you, and put a bunch of offers on. And when you get one accepted, then you go and you execute. You do the migration of the business, and that can take anywhere from a couple of days to a week or more, depending on how big the business is and how many assets and stuff are involved. And then you can, I would suggest, once you bought a business, is just don't change anything. Just leave it and learn the business. And
right.
like your business is data driven, right? So learn the data of the business, learn what feedback is you're getting from the business before you lean into more content production and how you should, do that content production and why, or changes to the site or email marketing or whatever it is. So learn the business, leave it for a while, get some data, and then start hashing out some strategies to start funneling some of that traffic to your primary product or business.
Got it. Okay, cool. And what's the kind of time frame you see this take? Like, I know this will vary enormously. I talked to somebody a while back who bought a new business in a couple of weeks, but my experience from talking to people is it's normally a much more lengthy process. What's the kind of range people could be looking at?
It's funny. I just had a guy who came into my community and he bought a business within 3 weeks. And he sent me so much due diligence. Like, I review due diligence for people. He sent me so many of them, and we found one that worked for him, and he went and bought it, and then he's done. And then I've got people that will take 6 months or a year. So it depends on how hungry people are. The same with anything. You're only going to do what you really want to do.
Yeah. That makes sense. Cool. Well, that's awesome, man. Anything else everybody should know in terms of the process about this?
No, that's basically it. Like, there's, we could go into full depth of how to do due diligence, but, that's not what this podcast is about. This is about the ideology of being able to buy another audience. If you are thinking about this, make sure you do your due diligence first. That's the main message. If you do decide to do this. Yeah.
And if someone's heard this and they're like, cool, I want to learn from Jaryd, where do they go? What's your site, or what's the first step someone can do to learn more about, working with you on this?
I'll just have a listen to my podcast or check out my content on YouTube, my videos, and just see if I'm a right fit for you first and foremost. See if my style of talking and teaching and coaching is something that would work for you. And then you can go from there. Like, I've got all the rest of the stuff comes, like, my funnel runs its own way as well. So yeah, check it out. And people have questions and stuff, they can just email me.
Perfect. All right. So you go to, I've just done a search for you on YouTube. I think you're about to start talking. There we go. Just search Jaryd Krause. So it's JARYD KRAUSE, and it's called Jaryd Krause Buying Online Businesses. Perfect.
Podcast is on there as well. If they like listening to podcasts there or any other podcast
is it
platform.
The same? Should they search the same thing if they're looking for the podcast?
If they're searching for the podcasts in any of the apps, it's Buying Online Businesses.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, hopefully that's been really helpful, guys. Certainly it's been absolutely fascinating for me. If you found this interview useful, then give us a review wherever you listen to it. And also come join us in the Advanced Course Creators Facebook group. You can just search on Facebook for Advanced Course Creators. Come join us there. We're always sharing tips and videos, and it's where all these interviews go live first as well. Thanks so much, Jaryd. Really appreciate you taking the time, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, John. Cheers. It's a great chat.